But I want to reflect for a few minutes on the situation in Iran and sort of between Iran and the US. Senior US and Iranian officials are in Oman for talks amid a crisis that has raised fears of a confrontation. As you well know, some of the saber rattling that's been going on and threatening that's been going on, very notably from President Trump, warnings galore on Truth Social, and some of it has been coming back as well from the Iranian leadership amidst that near total internet blackout in Iran and those ongoing protests and killings inside Iran as well. Let's get a sense of what, if anything, these talks might achieve. Dr. Efrat Sopher joins me, security analyst and chair of the Board of Advisors at the Esri Centre for Iran and Gulf States Research. Full title. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Sheila. Thanks for having me on.
Are these talks happening because of the threats, would you say?
I think the talks are happening because President Trump is the master of the art of the deal. I think, on the other hand, President Trump is also aware that Iranians are master negotiators. And so we need to kind of keep that in mind. I think President Trump would like to avoid military escalation. However, it's very interesting. He also wants to avoid looking a fool in front of the Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese. I think the administration is very aware of that. And I've just landed back from Washington, D.C., and everyone in the city was talking about the armada that is in the Gulf and near Iran. So what we can see is that the optics from the talks look very positive. You can see smiles, you can see handshakes. From that perspective, I would be concerned that if there were to be a deal, it wouldn't include the ballistic missiles and the proxies, which are the two most pressing and dangerous factors that Iran poses right now. Of course, the nuclear danger is very much there, but is something that is more in the 10 to 15-year range of immediate danger.
And for people who might not understand what you mean when you say the proxies and the ballistic missiles, that's Iran out in the world operating. Is that what you're alluding to there?
Correct. Forgive me.
No, that's all right.
The proxies are the terrorist organizations that Iran has been backing, has been spending billions of dollars for decades to export the revolution, to export Islamist extremism across the world. And that's important because you have educated, amazing, enlightened Iranian people who are being governed by the Islamic Republic. And so their natural national dollars are being wasted on these foreign proxies.
And in some of the protests, we've seen banners, haven't we, and chants saying, forget Lebanon, forget Israel, forget this, forget that, focus on us,
exactly.
Focus on Iran.
Sheila, they've got no running water. It's a civilized country. They've got blackouts, they have no running water. This is a country that before the revolution had one of the highest GDPs. It was on a trajectory to development. It was like a Western country. And so it's the contrast now is amazing. So we're at this turning point. And you mentioned the saber rattling. I think the saber rattling from the Iranian side is a sign of weakness. I think the regime has never been weaker. Its air defenses have been decimated. It's felt desperate enough to butcher tens of thousands of people. This is when the regime is its most dangerous, which is why we should also be looking, and what keeps me awake at night, is what the Iranians will do in the most vulnerable of places, which means what will they do in the West? What will they take hits out on dissidents, on Jewish communities, on other kind of softer targets? So we've
seen them try, haven't we? And we know from our own security services that they have foiled a good number of Iranian-backed terror attacks.
Exactly right. A friend of mine who's a journalist was stabbed in broad daylight in Wimbledon, so the danger is real.
As we know, the Iranian friend.
Exactly. An Iranian friend of mine who works for Iran International was stabbed in broad daylight. this isn't something that should happen in our capital. And so I think this is something we should be very, very aware of. And as you said, the head of MI5 said that there have been at least 20 attempted hits on dissidents' lives and peers of the realm. So we should be aware.
Did your friend survive?
Yes, he did, thankfully. Good. Thankfully, yes.
You talked there about the economic pressure, to say the least, in Iran that people are experiencing. How much of that is about a regime, an Islamist theocratic regime focused elsewhere, i.e. not on itself, on its own country, its own people, and how much of it is about sanctions? Is it a bit of both?
The elite have been unaffected, I feel, by the sanctions. The elite have pilfered away billions of dollars and stashed them in accounts outside. We've seen videos of their children living large on yachts in the West. I think that this is gross mismanagement by the government themselves. They're an oil-rich country. They shouldn't be like this.
And you know, it's interesting to me, it might be to you when I tell you, I did an interview before I came on air, and I'll be playing it after 2, with the deputy head of President Zelensky's office in Ukraine, in Kyiv, Ilo Brusilo. And he said Ukraine is looking, because it's easy from the UK perspective, isn't it, to not see how everything is so interlinked. But he was saying that Ukraine is looking very closely at what happens to this Iranian regime, because if it falls, that will have a material and positive impact, they feel, on the direction of the war on Ukraine by Russia, because, of course, Iran is a big backer of Russia. It's just one example of that proxy behaviour you were talking about, isn't it?
Precisely, you're bang on, Sheila. And very materially, this isn't even a theoretical thing. We've seen, and I saw this when I was lecturing to Polish generals, where they're keeping track of Iranian ballistic missiles and drones that are being used by Russia against the Ukrainians. And these same drones and missiles have the capability to reach European countries, such as Poland. And so this is, as you say, very, very interconnected and very important.
Thank you. Very good to talk to you.